And I said, how much does this ranch cost? He said, well, it's $350 million. And I said, well, I'm 330 short. I called Paramount and I go, all right, I'm ready. Let's do a deal. And they said, do you have a number in mind? And I said, why, yes, I do. I do have a number, and you're not gonna like it.
Yellowstone made stars, revived careers, and turned quiet actors into million-dollar names. But the shocking part is that the richest faces on the show are not always the ones fans expect. Some built wealth through decades of acting. Some earned huge paychecks after the show exploded. Others came in late, left early, or turned one role into an empire. This video will reveal the real money behind the cast, from ranch hands to Hollywood legends. We'll break down their net worth, career wins, Yellowstone's salary growth, and the surprising stories behind their fortune. 10. Forey J. Smith. When Yellowstone fans think of authenticity, one name often rises above the rest: Forey J. Smith. Unlike many actors who spend months learning how to ride horses, rope cattle, or move comfortably around a ranch, Smith arrived with those skills already built into his life. Long before television audiences knew him as Lloyd Pierce, he was living the lifestyle that Yellowstone would later bring to millions of viewers. Born and raised in Montana, Smith spent years working with horses, competing in rodeos, and embracing the rugged realities of cowboy culture. Ranch life was not something he studied for a role. It was simply who he was. That real-world experience would eventually become one of the greatest advantages of his acting career. Before stepping in front of cameras as an actor, Smith made a name for himself in the rodeo world. He participated in rodeo competitions and developed a reputation as a skilled horseman. The demanding lifestyle taught him discipline, toughness, and resilience. Those qualities later became visible in every scene he filmed. While many Hollywood productions rely on trainers and stunt doubles to create believable Western characters, Smith rarely needed that kind of help. He already understood the language, the routines, and the traditions of ranching life. This genuine background gave him an edge that very few performers could match. It also helped him build a long career behind the scenes, before eventually becoming a recognizable face on television. Much of Smith's early work came through stunt performances. Western productions constantly needed experienced riders who could handle difficult horse sequences safely. Smith became one of those trusted professionals. Over the years, he worked on numerous films and television projects, often performing dangerous riding scenes that required precision and experience. While stunt performers rarely receive the same attention as leading actors, their contributions are essential to making action sequences look believable. Smith spent decades earning respect in that world. Those years may not have made him a household name, but they quietly built the foundation for everything that came later. When Yellowstone arrived, it felt almost as if the role of Lloyd Pierce had been created specifically for him. Lloyd is an older ranch hand who commands respect without demanding attention. He is experienced, dependable, and deeply connected to the ranch life. Audiences immediately believed the character because Smith never appeared to be acting. Every movement felt natural. Every interaction with horses looked effortless. His years of real-life ranching experience helped create one of the show's most believable characters. Today, his estimated net worth sits around $6 million, built through decades of stunt work, acting roles, Western projects, and his successful run on Yellowstone. Forey J. Smith may not top this list financially, but few actors can claim that their real-life and on-screen character are nearly identical. If you think Forey's real cowboy life is surprising, wait until you see how the next star turned one tough ranch role into a much bigger Hollywood payday. 9. Cole Hauser. Long before Yellowstone turned Cole Hauser into one of television's most recognizable faces, he was already tied to Hollywood in a way that felt more like family than luck. He was born in California in 1975 and grew up close to people who seemed to know the industry from the inside. His father was actor Wings Hauser, and his mother was connected to the Warner family, a name that links back to the beginning of Warner Brothers Studios. Still, even with all that, it didn't come out of thin air. Hauser had to prove himself steadily, with years of work, auditions, and smaller supporting parts that accumulated piece by piece into a real reputation. These days, plenty of viewers only clock him as Rip Wheeler, but his career goes back far earlier than Yellowstone ever existed. Through most of the 1990s and into the early 2000s, Hauser kept showing up in a mix of films that helped him become the kind of actor directors could rely on. He shared screens with up-and-coming stars like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and he turned up in projects including School Ties, Good Will Hunting, Pitch Black, Tears of the Sun, and Too Fast, Too Furious. Those jobs brought dependable gigs and a level of industry respect, but they still never quite shoved him into full-blown fame. He was seen, yes, but not really celebrated. For a long time, he lived in that in-between space where audiences could identify him right away, but often couldn't get his name out fast enough. That changed all at once when Yellowstone premiered in 2018 and finally introduced people to Rip Wheeler. Rip quickly became one of those characters that fans really couldn't forget, like seriously, from the whole entire series. Loyal, unflinching, and weirdly fiercely protective of the Dutton family, he just carried this rugged Western type of hero energy that a lot of people admired. His relationship with Beth Dutton, though, it wasn't simple at all. It kept adding this extra layer that kept viewers locked in, season after season. Rip was hard enough to make enemies think twice, but at the same time, he was exposed in a way that showed those deep emotional scars. That mix, sort of tough grit plus quiet vulnerability, it turned him into a fan favorite almost immediately. Merchandise with Rip all over the place. Social media clips from his scenes went viral, and plenty of watchers felt like he was the emotional support beam of the show. Once Yellowstone's audience started growing, so did Hauser's worth inside the whole franchise. And yeah, the money came in fast after that. Some reports suggest Hauser earned something like $200,000 per episode during Yellowstone's early seasons. Then, as the show turned into one of the biggest television sensations in America, that figure reportedly rose to around $700,000 per episode by season 5. For the final season alone, his pay might have been close to $10 million, if the numbers hold up. 8. Gil Birmingham. Many actors spend their entire lives chasing success in Hollywood, hoping for a breakthrough before they turn 30. Gil Birmingham's story could not be more different. His path to fame was anything but traditional, and that is part of what makes his success so remarkable. Born in San Antonio, Texas, and of Comanche heritage, Birmingham initially focused on practical goals rather than dreams of becoming a movie star. He pursued higher education, earned a degree in education administration, and even worked as a chemical engineer. At a time when many future actors were attending auditions and acting classes, Birmingham was building a completely different career. Hollywood was not his first destination. In fact, it arrived much later than most people would expect. Before acting became his full-time profession, Birmingham also explored another creative passion: music. He was an accomplished guitarist and spent years performing before seriously pursuing acting opportunities. Those experiences helped him develop confidence in front of audiences, but success in film and television still did not come quickly. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, he worked steadily in smaller roles while trying to establish himself in a highly competitive industry. Progress was slow, and there were no overnight breakthroughs. Yet Birmingham remained persistent. While many people might have given up after years of limited recognition, he continued moving forward, trusting that bigger opportunities would eventually arrive. That patience finally paid off in a major way when he landed the role of Billy Black in the Twilight film series. Released in 2008, Twilight became a worldwide phenomenon and introduced Birmingham to millions of viewers. Playing the father of Jacob Black gave him a level of visibility he had never experienced before. More importantly, it opened doors to larger projects and stronger opportunities throughout Hollywood. What made the achievement even more impressive was his age. Birmingham was already in his mid-50s when Twilight premiered. In an industry obsessed with youth, he proved that major success can arrive later in life. His career continued gaining momentum when he entered the creative world of Taylor Sheridan. Birmingham appeared in Hell or High Water and later in Wind River, two critically acclaimed projects that strengthened his relationship with Sheridan. That connection ultimately led to Yellowstone, where he took on the role of Thomas Rainwater. As chairman of the Broken Rock Reservation, Rainwater became one of the show's most important and complex characters. Intelligent, strategic, and determined, he often challenged the Dutton family while pursuing his own vision for the future. The role earned widespread respect and helped Birmingham become a central figure throughout the series. Today, his estimated net worth is around $9 million. From engineer and educator to respected actor and television star, Birmingham's journey proves that success does not always follow a predictable timeline. Sometimes the longest road leads to the biggest reward. 7. Taylor Sheridan. Few people tied to Yellowstone have had a transformation as wild as Taylor Sheridan. Today, he's basically known as one of the most influential creators on television, but honestly, his ride started pretty far from the top. Before he built a huge entertainment machine, Sheridan spent years stuck working as an actor, not exactly in the spotlight. He showed up in TV shows and smaller parts, making enough to keep going, yet not enough for the big kind of breakthrough. For a while, he was just another performer, trying to make a living in Hollywood. You know the kind. He did find steady work, but later he said plainly that acting by itself wasn't giving him the future he wanted, not for him or for his family. And that frustration, it eventually pushed him into a choice that sort of flipped everything. Instead of constantly chasing acting roles, Sheridan turned toward writing. It turned out to be one of those really sharp moves in his career. His first real breakout showed up with Sicario in 2015, a tense crime thriller that grabbed Hollywood's attention right away. Then in 2016 came Hell or High Water, which got broad praise and even landed an Academy Award nomination for Best Original Screenplay. After that, Wind River arrived in 2017, and it cemented him as one of the more respected storytellers working in the business. Suddenly, the actor who'd spent years hunting for bigger chances had become, in a way, the writer and filmmaker people were hunting for too. His name kept spreading fast, and sure, his reputation was rising quickly, but his greatest moment was still somewhere ahead. That kind of success showed up in 2018 with Yellowstone. Sheridan basically made a modern Western, and it sort of quickly became one of the most watched television series in America. At first, it was only a single show, but then somehow it turned into a full franchise. Yellowstone brought viewers into the Dutton family, yet it also cracked open the door to a bigger world, like a sprawling universe of sorts. The spin-offs, 1883 and 1923, stretched the tale across different generations, and meanwhile other Sheridan-created series kept showing up and taking over streaming lineups and TV schedules. Basically, his ability to keep delivering hits shifted him from a solid writer into something more, a real creative force, whose work became hard to ignore for major studios. And yeah, the money followed. In 2021, Sheridan reportedly locked in a huge agreement with Paramount valued at about $200 million across 5 years. This deal gave them access to a growing lineup of popular series, while also keeping Sheridan solidly in the spot of one of the highest-paid creators in entertainment. Still, television isn't the whole picture when it comes to his wealth. Sheridan also joined a group that bought the famous 6666 Ranch in Texas for a reported $341 million. It's covering hundreds of thousands of acres, so it's both a storied property and a serious business asset. When you stack that alongside his production arrangements, his TV reach, and the real estate investments, Sheridan's estimated net worth has climbed to roughly $200 million. And his wealth doesn't really come from acting anymore. It comes from owning the narratives, building the brands, and taking a Western drama, turning it into a modern empire. 6. Kevin Costner. When Yellowstone premiered, Kevin Costner was already the biggest star attached to the project by a wide margin. Unlike many of his castmates, he did not need the show to become famous. He arrived with decades of Hollywood success behind him and a career that had already generated enormous wealth. Born in California in 1955, Costner spent years climbing through the film industry before becoming one of the most recognizable actors in the world. During the late 1980s and early 1990s, he starred in a string of major hits that transformed him into a box office powerhouse. Films like The Untouchables, Bull Durham, and Field of Dreams helped establish his reputation, but one project changed everything. That project was Dances with Wolves. Released in 1990, Dances with Wolves became a cultural phenomenon. Costner not only starred in the film, but also directed and produced it. The gamble paid off in spectacular fashion. The movie won multiple Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director, while generating massive financial rewards. Reports suggest Costner earned tens of millions of dollars through profit participation and back-end deals connected to the film. More major paydays followed through projects like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and The Bodyguard. By the mid-1990s, he had become one of the highest-paid actors in Hollywood. Although not every project succeeded, the massive earnings from his biggest films helped build a fortune that continued growing for decades. The mystery surrounding his actual wealth became even larger during his highly publicized divorce proceedings. Court filings suggested his assets could be worth around $400 million when real estate holdings and investments were included. At the same time, other public estimates placed his net worth significantly lower. Adding to the uncertainty was his ambitious Horizon film project, which reportedly involved tens of millions of dollars of his own money. Combined with luxury properties, business ventures, and long-term investments, determining Costner's exact fortune remains difficult. The money is already huge, but this is where the list gets even stranger. Because some actors did not need to own a ranch empire to shock fans with the size of their fortune. 5. Danny Huston. For a lot of actors, building a name in Hollywood takes forever. Not just skill, but serious hard work, steady persistence, and yeah, a little luck. Danny Huston walked in with something that very few performers can honestly claim. One of those respected family legacies in entertainment history that basically arrive already dressed up. He was born in Rome, Italy, in 1962, and from the start he was kind of surrounded by filmmaking excellence, like it was always in the air. His father was the legendary director John Huston, the creative force behind classic films such as The Maltese Falcon and The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Then there's his half-sister, Angelica Huston, who became an Academy Award-winning actress. His grandfather, Walter Huston, also took an Oscar. So, together, the Hustons turned into one of Hollywood's most celebrated clans. And the reputation didn't just sit in one era, it stretched across several generations. Long before Danny even stood in front of a camera, the family name already carried a heavy kind of authority. Still, having a famous surname is not some magical guarantee. It doesn't automatically hand over a successful career. Danny Huston had to earn the respect anyway, as an actor. Over time, he created a reputation for roles that are complicated, sharp, and often downright intimidating. His recognizable voice and that sort of commanding screen presence made him feel right at home for villains with real weight, political types, and influential businessmen. Viewers saw him in The Aviator, X-Men Origins, Wolverine, Wonder Woman, and a bunch of other projects that kept showing different sides. Maybe he never hit that constant blockbuster superstar status some people chase, but he became one of the industry's most reliable performers, the kind who can elevate almost any production just by being there, even when the spotlight isn't fully on him. That whole experience kinda made him a strong addition to Yellowstone when he showed up, playing Dan Jenkins. He was this wealthy land developer, and he seemed really determined to, push back against the Dutton family's grip on Montana. Pretty fast, Jenkins became one of the show's main bad guys, or at least one of the major antagonists. He basically embodied those outside pressures threatening the old-school ranching lifestyle that the Duttons are so stubborn about defending. Houston brought this mix of confidence, intelligence, and this polished, sophisticated vibe to the role. So Jenkins ended up feeling bigger than your usual run-of-the-mill television villain. For the first 2 seasons, he stayed right there, a constant presence in the ongoing fight about land power and influence. But yeah, his Yellowstone time wrapped up way sooner than a bunch of the other castmates. 4. Wes Bentley. Few Yellowstone actors have experienced a career journey as dramatic as Wes Bentley. At one point, he seemed destined to become one of Hollywood's biggest stars. Then, everything nearly fell apart. What makes his story remarkable is not simply the success he achieved, but the fact that he managed to rebuild his life after losing so much. Today, many viewers know him as Jamie Dutton, one of Yellowstone's most tragic and complicated characters. But long before he stepped onto the Dutton Ranch, Bentley had already experienced both the highs and lows of Hollywood in ways few actors ever do. Bentley's rise began at a young age. In 1999, he appeared in American Beauty, the critically acclaimed drama that became one of the biggest films of the year. His performance as Ricky Fitz earned widespread praise and instantly put him on Hollywood's radar. At just 21 years old, he looked like the next major star. The film won multiple Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and Bentley suddenly found himself surrounded by opportunity. Directors, producers, and casting agents saw enormous potential in him. From the outside, it appeared that he had everything necessary for a long and successful career. Yet behind the scenes, a much different story was beginning to unfold. Over the next decade, Bentley struggled with serious personal challenges that threatened both his career and his future. He has openly discussed the difficult years that followed his early success, including battles with substance abuse that consumed much of his life throughout the 2000s. Roles became less frequent, professional opportunities disappeared, and the promising future many expected seemed to drift further away. While some actors disappear from Hollywood because audiences lose interest, Bentley's situation was far more personal. He was fighting battles away from the cameras. There were setbacks, disappointments, and moments when it seemed unlikely that he would ever fully recover. Yet, those difficult experiences eventually pushed him toward change. 3. Neil McDonough. Neil McDonough built one of the more recognizable careers in Hollywood without really becoming a classic leading man. For decades, audiences saw him show up in big movies, strong TV shows, and the kind of blockbuster franchises where he would kind of steal the moment with that commanding vibe he has and his distinctive voice. He was born in Massachusetts in 1966, and McDonough studied theater before he really launched the career that slowly, step by step, gave him that reputation as one of the industry's dependable performers. Over time, he took part in things like Band of Brothers, Minority Report, Star Trek, First Contact, Captain America, The First Avenger, Arrow, and Legends of Tomorrow. Even if viewers didn't always catch the name, they still, pretty much definitely, recognized his face. It felt like his career was climbing up, steadily, and by the late 2000s, he had turned into a familiar figure across both film and television. Then it was a decision that sort of changed everything. You know, unlike many actors, McDonough has always been pretty open about the personal values that steer where he puts his energy and career choices. One of those lines was tied to refusing romantic scenes that include physical intimacy with actresses other than his wife. For him, it wasn't just some temporary vibe or a negotiation point he could shift around later. It was a solid principle, connected to his faith and his marriage. Some people respected it, sure, but over time it brought professional complications, more than he expected. During a television project, his refusal to take part in a scripted romantic scene reportedly resulted in him being removed from the production. And after that, What came next was one of those hardest stretches of his career. The fallout ended up being expensive. Work opportunities got harder to track down, and McDonough later talked about a season where projects just suddenly vanished. The financial pressure grew too, because the lack of roles hit both his career and his personal life. At one point, he even had to sell property and then make difficult adjustments while he tried to steady things during the downturn. The whole situation got even tougher because he kept holding on to the same beliefs that had caused the setback. Instead of bending his stance to fit industry expectations, he decided to remain consistent with what he believed in and just accept the consequences. For a lot of actors, that type of career pause might have felt near impossible to recover from. 2. Luke Grimes. Unlike some of his Yellowstone co-stars who arrived with decades of major fame behind them, Luke Grimes built his career through patience and persistence. His journey to success was steady rather than explosive. Born in Ohio in 1984, Grimes grew up far from the bright lights of Hollywood and eventually moved to New York to study acting. Like many aspiring performers, he faced the difficult reality of trying to stand out in an industry filled with talented people chasing the same dream. Early roles helped him gain experience, but none instantly transformed him into a household name. His rise was gradual, marked by small victories and consistent effort rather than overnight success. One of Grimes's earliest notable projects came with All the Boys Love Mandy Lane, a film that generated attention but faced distribution delays that limited its immediate impact. While the movie helped introduce him to the industry, it did not provide the breakthrough many expected. He continued working and slowly expanded his resume with appearances in television and film. Audiences later saw him in projects such as American Sniper, where he shared the screen with Bradley Cooper, and in the 50 Shades trilogy, where he played Elliot Grey. These roles increased his visibility and helped establish him as a dependable actor. But he was still searching for the defining role that would elevate his career to another level. That role arrived when he was cast as Case Dutton in Yellowstone. As the youngest son of John Dutton, Case quickly became one of the show's most important characters. Unlike some members of the Dutton family, Case often found himself caught between different worlds. He was a former Navy SEAL, a devoted husband and father, and a man struggling to balance loyalty to his family with his own values. That complexity made him relatable to many viewers, while characters like Beth Dutton and Rip Wheeler often generated headlines for their explosive personalities. Case provided a quieter emotional center. His personal conflicts, relationships, and difficult decisions became essential parts of the show's story. And now we reach the actress, whose character became a cultural firestorm. Her fortune may not look like the biggest on paper, but her Yellowstone power changed everything. 1. Kelly Riley. Before she became one of the most unforgettable characters on television, Kelly Riley spent years sort of quietly building an impressive career across stage and screen. Born in England in 1977, Riley never really took the straight-ahead route a lot of actors choose. She didn't go to some prestigious drama academy or complete full formal acting training. Instead, she leaned on natural talent, stubborn determination, and a willingness to pick things up the hard way, by doing. At first, her work was all theater, and there she quickly drew attention with performances that felt strong and pretty magnetic. Even while she was still in her 20s, she got big praise for her stage roles and basically became one of Britain's rising acting names. Long before Yellowstone brought her to millions of viewers, Riley was already earning real respect inside the entertainment world. As her reputation kept growing, opportunities sort of expanded past the stage. Riley showed up in a bunch of television programs and films, steadily building a career that ran across both British and American productions. People saw her in things like Pride and Prejudice, Sherlock Holmes, Flight, and True Detective. She kept turning in solid performances, but wide international fame stayed a little out of reach. Critics treated her as a real deal, and fellow actors admired her. Yet, she still hadn't landed the one role that would completely redo her public image. Then, in 2018, things shifted. Yellowstone premiered, and viewers finally met Beth Dutton. The second Beth appeared on screen, it was obvious audiences were watching someone different. Not just a character, but a whole energy. Fierce, sharp-minded, slightly volatile, and emotionally worn down, Beth quickly became a driving force behind the series, like really at the center of it. Her biting one-liners, fearless run-ins, and steady loyalty made her hard to ignore. Viewers quoted her lines everywhere, posted clips of her best moments on social media, and argued about what she did from season to season. In a lot of ways, Beth became the face of Yellowstone's attitude and heat. While Kevin Costner handled the series anchor as John Dutton, Beth often delivered the moments people couldn't stop talking about. Her popularity rose so fast that she turned into one of the most discussed female characters on television. Yellowstone did more than tell a ranch story. It changed careers, revived names, and created new Hollywood fortunes. Some actors walked away with millions. Others built power far beyond the screen. If you enjoyed this breakdown, like, comment, and subscribe. Then, watch the next video shown on the screen for more surprising stories behind your favorite stars.